here we are, the Deltang radio control system. Here's the transmitter. This is the speed and direction knob. This is the loco selection switch. This is the inertia control. There's also a reversing switch, which actually isn't in use on this system because I've got the control knob. It can be used for lights and accessories and so on. The on-off switch and the bind button, which I'll show you later. Okay, I've set loco number 5, so the green loco is on channel number 5. If I turn it this way, you can see her beginning slowly and bringing her to a stop, and then coming forward back into the station and bringing her to a stop. If I now turn the control knob to loco number 2, that's the black loco, similarly I can bring her up to speed, stop her and bring her forward. Now, the inertia control, I'll turn it back to loco number 5. She's got a much smoother mechanism, so shows it to better effect. I'm putting the inertia control not quite halfway. Could put it halfway, but it takes a bit too long then to start up. So it's on loco 5, half inertia. Here we go. She builds up speed herself, and then if I turn the knob to 0, she cruises to a stop. I'll show you that in the station, bringing her up to speed and then slowing down in the station. Now the other feature of this system is that once you set a loco running, if you then could change to select another loco, then the first loco remembers the speed setting it was on. So I'll bring the inertia down to 0. So let's set the green loco going slowly. I then change the control knob to loco 2 and set her going. Bring the loco number 2 back, then go back to number 5. She'll come to a stop and bring her back into the station. Now that's the basics of the system. There are all sorts of other settings that the user can change with a standard transmitter or the special programmer unit. So you can do things like change the inertia and the top speed and the point at which the loco starts and so on. But that's beyond the scope of this particular evaluation. Binding the receiver to the transmitter is a very straightforward process. First job is to turn on the receiver. Now on there, I don't know whether you can see it, but there's a very tiny LED that's flashing once every 2 seconds. After 20 seconds that will begin to flash rapidly, which shows that it's in bind mode. So in the meantime what we'll do is we'll set the loco selector switch to the channel that I want this particular loco to respond to. So we'll put it on 2. So that's now on setting 2. The 20 seconds isn't quite up yet, it's still flashing once every 2 seconds. Right, there it goes, it's now flashing rapidly. So I hold the bind button down and at the same time press the on button. Now what happens is this flashes and that flashes and they flash in unison, and after a while that stops flashing and goes back to 2 seconds, and it's now on solid. So I release that and they're now bound. So just to show you that, if I lift up the loco so it doesn't go shooting off the table, if I turn the motor on, there she goes. And that's all there is to it. Now for a range test. I've set the green loco up with a train of goods wagons, and I'm going to set her off round the back of the shed to the furthermost point that you can see in my garden. It's about 15 metres away. I've done a range test right the way to the end, from one end to the other, which is 25 metres, and it still is fine, but you can't see from one end to the other. So anyway, off she goes. I'm going to set her going at a fair pace because I don't want her disappearing around the back of the sheds for ages and not reappearing. Right, so there she goes. And now just to pan round to the other end of the garden. You can just see the top of the roof of the shed there. And there's the elevated section at the other end of the garden, which is about 15 metres away, as I said. So hopefully, all being well, and if nothing has happened, she should reappear there very soon. Well, I can hear her coming, and just to show you that she's still under control, I'll bring her to a stop. And then start her up again.